let's talk about this idea of becoming more fully human, because this is the organizing principle the visional reorganizing lab works with. This is the root concept, would you say, of what visional reorganizing lab is its intention is to help generate and stimulate people to become more fully human. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think it would be accurate. It certainly would be accurate. And I think that comes, the phrase becoming more fully human, almost a year ago, Visionary Organizing Lab was leading a class on the works of James and Grace Lee Boggs. And in one of a newspaper article written in like 1962 or 3 by either James or Grace Boggs was the phrase more fully human. It was a phrase that when I read it, it captured so much of what I believed to be the potential and lifeblood of humanity, if you will. And I think that the way I understand the concept, I find it useful to think about what it means to be a human being, first of all, and to honor and be realistic and plain about the fact that human beings have enormous creative potential and creative capacity. I think that when we look at the experience of working class white people in the United States, and I want to be clear here, because it's not the whole of the white working class, but it's significant sectors of the white working class and the white middle classes. That there is, and Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois, would write about this more eloquently than anyone in Black Reconstruction. Black Reconstruction in America is the book. And I believe the quote is, so long that the white working class could be induced to prefer poverty to equality with the Negro, so long was any kind of cross-race working class organizing impossible. Mm-hmm. Part of what we're talking about is facilitating amongst ourselves as a species an understanding that who we are as individuals is significant, and that our survival doesn't need or ought not be tied to capital or access to money.
Yes.
Human beings ought not be, that our function is not to serve the economy, yes, but that an economy's function is to serve human beings.
Exactly. As a human, your best teacher is your own innate sense, and being able to know yourself in a way that is integral, and having the culture around you that supports that integrity and loves it. And that is how you learn to be, if we were taught that way, we would be much more fully human as we reach into our teenage years and then into our adulthood. We talk about transformation of this because we have to undo a lot of that. So we have to go back and undo a lot of that. But it comes to this, what it develops is this sense of autonomy. I am an autonomous human being. And a fully realized autonomous human being doesn't look across in a comparative sense of others. I am better than you, worse than you. They don't think that way. It's I am who I am, you are who you are. And one is no better than the other. And it has that deep sense of knowledge of self. Interestingly enough, the way to change the system, this conceptual thing we call the system, economic system, is less about changing the system in this kind of technical sense than it is about changing the worldview and the attitudes and the consciousness of the from which it emerges. And we are still the people from which it emerges. It has emerged over centuries, and it was an emergent process, so nobody sat down and designed capitalism in a complete sense. Lots of little things got added, and we've ended up where we are. This version really was born in the 80s with Thatcher and Reagan and neoliberalism. Just a more concentrated version of what came before, but it did shift and evolve over time. So it's not a simple thing saying that capitalism is just bad in that kind of somebody designed it wrong. It's like we collectively started to misunderstand who we are as human beings at a certain point, and that emerged. Capitalism emerged from that.
I understand my job as creating a container that has the potential to transform that. And I take that. I mean, I don't pretend to think that I could transform Trump. I'm not saying that.
He's a lost cause, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I try to cultivate spaces and containers that can hold the depth of that woundedness.
Yes.
Because if it can hold that depth, everybody who walks into it will connect to their capacity to become more fully human in some way, shape, or form. And they'll do it as a collective. When people set out to do something collectively as individuals, when individuals set out to do something collectively, that project creates a container for each one of those people to understand that they have a contribution to make to a process that is interdependent with the contributions that others have to make as well. Mm-hmm. And so I think the shorthand, what my experience has taught me, is that projects organized and carried out by small groups can do a great deal towards facilitating an understanding of the way in which we are all interconnected and socially individual but cohesive.